have all signed up. So thank you
This
so much.
meeting is being recorded.
There we are. That's the official nod. And I guess with the hope that one day I don't become famous and this will come back out and embarrass me one day. Hopefully not. So this evening you have joined the session around being a HR professional in 2022 and what do we want that to look like. And this is hopefully an interactive session and one that we want to invite you to come along and join us. So let's get started. So, as Kelly mentioned, my name's Rose Prosser and I'm part of the Shropshire CIPD committee and a fellow people professional. Worked in HR, L&D and all sorts of different avenues. And I can see quite a few of my colleagues have joined this evening that I've worked with before as well. So hello to all of you and nice to connect with you all. As I mentioned, this will be an interactive session and we're going to have the opportunity to reflect, reset and refresh in order to approach 2022 with hopefully strength in mind. And we're well and truly into January now, aren't we? 12th of January, so we're well on our way. And for those of you who are wondering why I might look quite refreshed this evening, that's because I've got into cold water swimming recently. So I had a nice cold shower about 45 minutes ago. So I feel I'm ready for you all this evening. I must admit the rest of the day I didn't look this way at all. So I can imagine for some of you, this might be probably your first CIPD session of 2022. And that's a really great positive first step for all of you. So well done. Thank you for joining and well done for prioritising yourself as well so early into January. I feel that many of us have probably come back from the festive break and New Year with lots of people asking lots of questions of us and looking for the answers from us. And we've maybe not thought about ourselves. So that's good. And just to reflect that CIPD last year, Shropshire hosted lots of events. We had lots of fantastic guest speakers from all types of backgrounds, such as employment law, Stephanie Davis from Lathology, which some of you might have heard of before, Paul McGee, he's one of Europe's leading speakers on change and work relationships and motivation. So thank you so much. So I just want to open up and ask those that, if you can see the chat box, let us know, where are you dialing in from this evening? So pop in the chat, because I think we've got some people from all over. We aren't Shropshire here, are we? There's quite a few people from all over the place. So pop in the chat, where have you all come from? Derbyshire, hello. Thank you, Samantha, for putting that in there. Towerford, brilliant. Fairly close. Shrewsbury, the smiley face. Telford, thank you. Evening, Trudy. Cornwall, wonderful. Hello, thank you for joining. Dubai, I just saw, fantastic. Oh, I've seen some lovely Instagrams of people in Dubai at the moment. Lovely. Solihull. Fantastic. Oh, brilliant. So we've got a really mixed demographic of people here tonight. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Oh, I can't say that one, Miriam. Sorry. But thank you for joining from somewhere which is close but far, I think, from what I remember. So this evening's agenda. So we're going to reflect. So on the challenges we've faced throughout 2021. For us as people professionals, you know, it has again been another different tough year in many ways. And that's been challenging for some of us personally and professionally as we adapt to whatever the new normal looks like. We're then going to have a really great session with Jo Cook of Heal and Thrive Therapies, and she's given us a wave there. And this is going to be a time for us to focus on your personal and professional well-being, because actually that's really intertwined, and it's never been as important as ever that we look after ourselves as well as looking after everybody else. And then finally, we're going to make sure that you all have a pack of resources which provide an overview of the benefits of having the CIPD membership and actually how you can make your membership work the most for you, because actually some of us maybe only use 10% of what that gives us, and there's such a lot of resources and things that you may not even know about. Okay. We're now going to go into our temperature check. So on your screens, you will see metameter.com. So if you go to meti.com, which you can see at the top of the screen, and type in the code, I'd like you to give us some words of reflection on 2021 for you. So one of my co-hosts or colleagues can pop in the website in the chat for anybody that can't see it. It's www.menti.com and the code is 7928 2447, and give us as many words as you can on reflection of 2021 for you. Let's see what comes through, and we hopefully should have a word cloud that starts to build for all of us as they start coming through.
Rose, can you just repeat that code, please, and I'll pop it in the chat for anyone who can't see it.
Of course, Amy, it's 79282447, and it's menti.com. This worked earlier, so it hopefully should still work. I'm going to put some of mine in at the same time. I'll load it. Growth, learning, persevere, busy, very busy, pain. Yeah. Wow, thank you for all the words that are coming through. As you can see, some of the words that get probably said more often will get bigger on the screen. Challenging is definitely one that stands out there, isn't it? Great, thank you, everybody. 29 of you have now submitted, 30 of you. So a really mixture of words there, emotional words, words of physicality there, the struggles that have come with your job and your family and adjusting to that as well. I love it, still coming through. Fantastic, thank you so much. Right, I'll let you all have a moment to have a read through those. And I'm looking to my left because I've got another screen that's telling me, and I can see it in bigger writing. Yeah. So some of you have had new beginnings, freedom, okay, flexible, huge learning curve, wow, hard work, tiring, exhausting. I feel like many of these words we really connect to, and I guess however you've experienced the last 18 months, it's very much your story, isn't it? And I've found many of us that work in the people profession to be excellent storytellers, and we know it's certainly not over yet, is it, as well, for 2022. They're still coming through. I'm going to leave that there whilst I talk a bit more about that. So we still don't know the full impact of the pandemic on the global workforce, but the picture is incredibly complex and it's still changing. Broadly, on the positive side, we've seen increased productivity in many avenues and many sectors, but some of us were able to work more normally because we weren't driving to the office or potentially on train journeys. Some of us got to know our colleagues better. Those of us that might have been already working from home actually started inviting people into our home ourselves. And we would allow people to see our kitchens and our dogs and our cats and our kids and our partners walking past. And how often did that Amazon driver knock on the doorbell, press the doorbell, knock on the door? You know, that became a normality. And of course, positive experiences initially are regarded as cultural gains. And we know, however, we also had some cultural losses. All of this is felt so individual. It's lack of choice, it could be lack of control, and lockdown, we know, affected more people than others. If you were an extrovert, then you might have felt that lack of human contact really difficult. I know for me, I got a cat last year and it was the best thing I ever did because I was on my own a lot and he spoke to me every now and then, but it was just that interaction with somebody other than maybe my laptop all day. Some of you thrive on predictability as well. So again, you would have struggled with that. And we cannot forget that there's more specific issues that have arisen as well with mental health and physical health for us as well, which has become more intense and difficult. Our own data at CIPD has actually shown us significant increases in people presenting with anxiety, stress and depression over lockdown. And for some of us now, we are now getting into what that looks like within our businesses and what we can do. Thank you so much for all your reflective words on 2021. Hopefully you've all had time to have a look at those and connect and sense whether there's ones that you can really connect to as well. I'll share a screenshot of that when we share out the slides later. Okay. So reflections on 2021, as I mentioned earlier, there were cultural gains and losses, and with that came much change that led us as people professionals to think about how we can retain all those brilliant positive cultural changes. Some of you would have already defined your strategies around what those positive cultural changes were and how you want to take those through into 2022. Later in 2021, the UK Office for National Statistics actually gathered us that there were a record high 1.2 million vacancies between September and November last year. That was huge. And some of you already commented in that word cloud that recruitment was relentless and it never ended, and it's still continuing now. We know that over 13 of the 18 industry sectors actually saw record high vacancies. And the largest increase was actually in human health and social work. And for some of you, I'd imagine you work in that industry. Interestingly, there was massively positive growth in one industry that stood out, which I hadn't thought of, which was 41.7% up. And actually, for those of us that are walking home at more, and which is a lot of people, it's actually the water supply and waste management sector. There was huge growth in that area. Interesting to see how it's affected so many different sectors. CIPD, working in conjunction with Work Diet, actually released a report about the impact on the people profession. And key themes that we actually saw were things like digital transformation driving organisational change. Working from home made key aspects of people professionals much more challenging for us. We had to up our skills and our understanding. And last year, we saw huge amounts of us actually do lots of learning development, have to reskill in different areas. I know for me, I had to reskill in things like DIY because I thought I was now could be a master of it, and started doing some plastering and things. And I think my reskilling in areas probably wasn't best fit. But again, we saw a lot of people professionals increase their actual learning development during the pandemic. We know that the people function plays a vital role in influencing organisational strategy. And for some of you, you may have not felt that seat of HR being as important as it was in the last few years. And I've spoken to people and understood that actually they felt they were more pivotal and more involved in decisions with businesses than they've ever been. And actually the value that we hold as people professionals has really come through, and it's growing. Majority of people professionals have recorded and told us at CIPD that they remain positive and that they're proactive in their career progression. It says a lot for all of you that are here tonight, and for those of you that'll be watching this recording. You're committing yourself because you're proactive and you're putting your emphasis on your career and what your profession means to you. And most importantly, that one thing that came out of CIPD with Workday was actually our purpose and our principles as people professionals. So our values, we don't want to compromise those. What the meaning in working life looks like and being happy and making sure that those principles are in line with what we do has been important. And that has fed into some of the other things that you see on the screen there relating to the Great Resignation and the Great Reshuffle. We have seen a change in things, and I think it's definitely going to continue into 2022. Our CIPD policy advisor, Claire McCartney, recently went on the news and very publicly was talking about urging employers not to revert back to previous ways of working and encouraging them to find flexible working solutions that work both for the organisation and the employee, and how key that is as well. Has anybody popped anything in the chat, my co-hosts, because I can't see that at the moment, about what we've talked about and what they've seen so far? And that's okay if they haven't.
Nothing so far, Rose.
Okay. Any other thoughts or anything people want to bring to the table, or mention, or pop in the chat for us? No, that's okay too. So we're going to now move on to our challenges and what we see in 2022. So I'd like you to go back onto menti.com again, and I'd like to understand, what challenges do you anticipate this year? What sort of things are on your mind? What sort of things are your business partners, your clients, your customers saying to you that they kind of expect or want to conquer this year in HR, or HR want to do? These could be personal challenges for you in your career, or they also could be ones that you feed into your strategy, or part of some of the things we've talked about in reflections there around mental health, the new normal, the hybrid. What does that look like? What challenges are you anticipating this year? Let us know. And it should be unlimited in terms of the words that you give us as well. So I'd be really interested to see what you all think this year might be like. I know for me, in the business I work in, which is IT, we've had huge growth, and you can't get enough skilled people to come in, because actually there's just massive growth. And of course, what comes with that is salary demands and poaching, and, you know, people having their doors knocked very often on things like LinkedIn, asking if they're open to opportunities. And that's why it's been so important to look at our values and how we look after people and have those sort of stay conversations. What makes people want to stay within the business?
Rose, I think you need to refresh Menti. A couple of people
Okay.
said they can't see the new question.
Okay, let me go back. Is that showing now?
No one's saying either way in the chat, so we'll just see if any answers come through.
Okay. I just put menti.com and I'll put the code on there. 79282447. Mine isn't showing. Okay. Not the current one. Okay, guys. No, can see the. Okay. Well, it's always good to see the reflective, and we want to see the looking forward, don't we? Right. Give me a second, my friends, and I'll just refresh. And this is the story of our lives, isn't it? People, professions, these sort of things happen far too often in my case, I think. Right, let's go. Right. I'm going to. Looks like it's the same code, that's why. So, okay, that should have done it. Right, I'm going to reshare my screen. And don't worry, you don't need to say sorry. Thank you for saying sorry. And let's go for it again. Share.
Yeah, it's working now. Apparently.
Working?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yep.
There we go. Eleanor, is that coming through okay?
Yeah, we can see the words coming through this time.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Rose.
I might put in there some challenges I anticipated this year. Technology sometimes not working for me. Brilliant. Loads of thoughts and feelings coming through here. So taking care of me, completing your level 5. Brilliant. Good for you that's doing it. Loads of us have completed that recently. So if you need any support, let us know here at the committee. We've got Amy, who's strongly connected to the students who can support with that. Recruitment challenges, I hear you. Managing flexibility, skill gap, vaccinations being chartered, dealing with burnout, staying safe at work. Retention is coming out loud and clear there, isn't it, with recruitment and mental health. Anxieties, growth, positive. Life-work balance. I like that. Somebody told me recently that they're revisiting it rather than in a work-life balance. It's a life-work balance. Training, losing for workforce, policy changes. Yeah, there's quite a few coming this year, isn't there? The HR, climate change. Yeah. A lot on our mind, isn't there, between us all on the call today? And there's quite a few of us on this call collectively we've got a lot of things to work through, and I think it's now more than ever important that as people professionals we support each other, we network, and we use opportunities like this evening to see who's on the call and who we can connect with as well, and what more we can do for you at CIPD Shropshire to support all these challenges that you anticipate this year as well, because that's what we're here for. Yeah, this list is growing and growing. Thank you so much. Yeah, lots of really good thoughts there. Okay, I'll leave that sitting there for those of you that are on there. And again, I'll make sure that we share this with you so you can see some of the things that have come out from our conversations as well. Okay. So on your screen, you can see some of the things for year ahead thoughts. Clearly, our 60 odd comments there may feature in a number of these headings. And according to the Achievers Workforce Institute, the sense of belonging and people wanted to feel that they work for compassionate, ethical and supportive employers is really part of that cultural gain that I referenced earlier. And we know through evidence, data, that people are not afraid to leave somewhere that doesn't embody these things. And for some of you, that could have been your story for last year, that you didn't see those things, so you chose to do something different. Some of you may be really new to our people profession because of that, because you want to make a difference. I think there's probably no doubt that one of the biggest stories, and it came out very large, very clear with that, was that great resignation, as they like to refer to, and it's spilling over into this year. And now people are calling it sort of the reshuffle. So whatever it looks like, I know it means that we have a lot of work at our table to look to do that. And I know through 2021, many of us were still carrying that light, trying to navigate through safety protocols, transitioning to that remote teams for businesses that said, do you know what, we're just going to stick to this way because it's just really working. And I know for many of us, we found our stature grow within businesses and taken seriously in a different way. But I know for most people, they were just seeking to have a better fit in their work and life-work balance. I'd like to know if anybody currently is doing any stay conversations. Is anybody considering that, or certainly working through that within their business at the moment about what that stay conversation may look like, with less emphasis on doing the exit part of it? Is anybody on the call free to talk or pop in the chat about if they're doing that in their business at the moment? I'm going to just say you're on mute if somebody's not talking. Or if any of our panels, our committee panels have seen any businesses do that at the moment.
We've got Dee saying some chats coming in now, Rose. If you can see them.
Oh, thank you.
You see those?
If you can just call those out for me, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we've got Dee saying only when someone threatens to resign. Lisa, a colleague at work today, mentioned doing them within a work division. Hannah saying not to stay conversations, however, reviewing and improving benefits, etc.
Okay.
Kay, more conversations about employee share options to incentivize staying. So there's some things going on, aren't there? Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at the packages, and still some, I guess, reaction in terms of it's coming when somebody's sort of saying to us, listen, I'm not happy. And okay, interesting. Thanks for sharing those, everybody. Oh, I've got another one there as well. Engagement, looking at the stay type agendas. Okay, that's interesting. Thanks, Hannah.
Sorry,
and I think as we go through, oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just sharing, but I did send a message directly to Samantha. Samantha, sorry, it doesn't make any sense. We're doing some of the sort of stay conversations within primary and social care clients at the moment.
Right, okay, thank you. Trudy, we're reviewing our benefits and have increased salaries today. Okay. So lots of us are reviewing and doing different things. I guess ideally for some of us, we don't want to just be doing throwing salaries and things at it as well, because the world is changing. And what is it fundamentally behind the root? I guess it depends on what sector you're working. That will really kind of drive what your conversations are as well. Okay, thank you for talking, contributing there. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. One thing I've touched on a bit already is how much we've revealed that the mental health and wellness, how important that is to everybody, and let alone, you know, very much for ourselves. And, you know, nobody is immune to stress, and that's especially during these uncertain times. And I think providing people with the tools to relieve stress and addressing mental illnesses and preventing burnouts really important, and quite a few of you called that out in our word window, or whatever you want to call it earlier. That came out loud and clear as well. And so for some of us, we've gone to yoga classes since during work time. Some of us have had mental health days. Everyone seems to be doing really, really differently, but I know it's a thing that we've got to look at and contribute to, and I guess be a bit more creative with some of the things that we need to do, because data and like the evidence is really showing us that that is a real trend and theme that's coming through very loud and clear now. And I guess as well, thinking about our year ahead, whatever you're looking at, it's important that the values of yourself and the business are associated with whatever decisions you make. So within our resources at the back, we've linked loads of fantastic updates and resources to help you think about what you might do this year and how you might do that as well. Thank you very much, everybody. So I thought I'd share some polls recently, because I think we all see these things on LinkedIn sometimes, but it's normally because we're looking for something else. I thought it'd be interesting for us just to take a moment to look at a recent CIPD polls, and they give us really good insight to the thoughts of our fellow people professionals for 2022. And I know we can be seen as sometimes the crystal ball experts that can predict the future. And I know for me, I feel settled pretty well into 2022 already. So I guess it's, where are your cultural gains going to be? How will you grow from those? And really importantly, not forget yourself in that as well. So this leads really nicely on to my fellow colleague, Jo Cook, and I'm going to hand you over to her now for our next session, Reset.
Thanks, Rose. That was great. Really enjoyed all of that, and seeing the insights there from everybody was absolutely fantastic. So I'm just sharing my screen now. We're just switching over so I've got control. Helps do this work the right way around. There we go. And just adjust the settings so I can see myself. That's probably one of the things about Zoom, wasn't it? People not actually liking seeing themselves on Zoom. Quite a few times actually had to work with people on that. I just don't like to see myself on Zoom and look back. I quite like to see where I am. So welcome and thank you. It's great to be here with you all tonight. So I say I'm Jo Cook. My business is Hypnotherapy Shropshire, and it's all about heal and thrive therapies. It's based online and in Wellington. As I moved to Shropshire, it's a year ago actually this week, so it's been a great year, and I've loved being part of this this new county, a new part of the world. For me, it's been fabulous. And I've been in HR roles for quite some time, and more recently most of the time in learning development roles. So coaching led me to working with a number of therapeutic interventions that help me move clients and colleagues forward, really, helping get through a little bit more dynamically the firewall that can perhaps stop change happening. So just to explain a little bit more about myself and what I do. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, which means I've passed and jumped through various hoops like you do when you're doing CIPDs, qualifications, various hoops to get that qualification and a practitioner status, which means that then I'm a member of the National Council of Hypnotherapy. It's one of the bodies, and the Complementary and National Natural Healthcare Council. Hypnosis is seen as a complementary therapy. And then I continued to train and added to my toolkit something that isn't based on hypnosis. It's basically working with the mind, but something quite different, and it's a very new neural therapy. This therapy is only 10 years old, and in the therapy world that is very new. It's called brain working recursive therapy, not the sexiest of titles, but works with neurons. And I'm a level 2 practitioner, advanced practitioner within that, which means I work with the core identity, the way we feel about ourselves. So not just sort of individual issues, but the way somebody might feel about themselves. Particularly for me, in my area that I work in, is all about self-esteem. Self-esteem and somebody seeing themselves as not good enough. And last year, my learning growth, as well as many other things, surviving the world and putting a business online, was also upskilling. And I did the Marissa Peer qualification, again, quite an extensive one, to be a rapid transformational therapist. If you don't know Marissa, she's quite a renowned therapist in the hypnotherapy world. It's again an advanced analytical therapy. And also I'm a life and performance coach. So 3 key modalities that I use within my toolkit. So the aim of tonight is, of course, all about resetting and a big focus on well-being, and lots of words that stuck out for me there: the challenge, the stress, survival, almost, as well, we saw a few times, challenge, pain, whether that's physical, emotional pain. That you may have been feeling, some really quite scary things that have been going on. What I wanted to do in my short session tonight is really focus on what goes on in the brain, help you understand that a little bit more, so you can perhaps be a little bit more in control. And control is a very, very important word. So I wanted control of the mouse, so I know where I'm going. We like control, the mind likes control, and probably over the last 20 months we've had the least amount of control in our lives going forward, haven't we? Changing, moving this way and that. And we'll also do a little bit of reset work. So we're going to do 2 activities. Hopefully we'll get time to do both. Working within a very short space of time with a couple of therapies I do. Of course, it is a snapshot of the work that I would be doing with a client in a 90-minute, 2-hour session. We'll go through with that, and hopefully a little bit of time for some questions as well. So a little bit of brain work we're going to be doing. And for me, it is about the brain doing the right kind of work. The therapies that I use are about working with the inner brain. So as much as they're classed as talking therapies, they're quite active and more protocol based. So we're doing to get the mind to make the change. That's where it comes from. So we'll do a little bit of resetting. We've probably heard well-being talked about. The words come up so many times already, and the well-being agenda's quite rightly been around for some years, hasn't it? And no more so than the last 20 months as it escalated, and of course it's quite challenged. Mental health services very, very challenged. But what is well-being? I wanted to just stop and just pause on this a little bit, just to share a model and a little bit of research, reading that you might find of interest as well. So when I was exploring wellbeing, part of my learning development role was very much involved in this. I looked at the work of Martin Seligman, and he has some amazing little tools that you can be used as well, great resilience tools. In his early career, Martin Seligman is known as the father of the positive psychology movement. He was equally a psychotherapist who would deal with fixing people and teaching people how to fix people as well. But he had a bit of a quest about his positive psychology movement, how we could be focusing on our well-being rather than just fix. Now, I'm a great believer that both are needed. We need to fix what we struggle with, what comes from our past. But we also then need to maintain our equilibrium with good well-being practices. Now, in his quest, his research started to come out in the late 90s. He gained sponsorship and finance to a tune of 1.5 billion, an enormous amount, to research this theory of positive psychology. And then you may have heard of his book, Authentic Happiness. That was his first piece of research, but he went beyond that to go, actually, well-being comes from more than the emotion. It comes from more than happiness. And his research showed that his model, which is called, my slide's not moving on, PERMA. So well-being comes from 5 areas, and actually it's the presence of all 5 give us great well-being. I'm not going to pause too long here because we don't have a lot of time, but actually I want you to start sort of thinking and challenging yourself around this, but also perhaps what goes on in your organisation as well. So his second book was called Flourish, so actually fantastic, and a very easy read as well, very easy read. He describes it, great well-being comes from these 5 things. I'm going to focus a bit more on the positive emotion in the exercise we're going to do, but absolutely vital is these other 4 areas. We need to be engaged. When we're engaged, when we have great relationships, a meaning in life, and if we're achieving, our well-being is increased. You can probably see, can't you, directly how they impact our positive emotion when those things are going well. All 5 are interrelated, as Seligman would describe, and when one is missing, the others are pulled down. For me, those 4 really do impact on our positive emotion, the happiness, the self-esteem, the feeling good, the general lightness, peacefulness, in the flow, good levels of physical and mental health will come from those other areas. And just thinking about all of those words in the meter that we saw, you can see how the pandemic has challenged these, can't you? Good and bad. So having your engagement, thinking about yourself, you know, your engagement, your ability to feel just in the flow and doing the thing that you love. Oh, has your role significantly changed and pushed into another area that you just didn't light your fire, or maybe you've now switched back into something that really did feel that lovely flow where work just happens. We've perhaps lost relationships, coming away from working within a team, then enhanced relationships, being around our families. Equally, that can be quite challenging, can't it, as well? Some of you may be feeling even more connected as well. Did you lose meaning? Again, we heard from Rose that actually HR has gained more meaning, more of a presence, which is great. I love getting to the end of the day knowing that I can tick off a number of things. It gives us this really valid motivator, isn't it, when we know we're achieving but the greater things in life that we're achieving. But with policy changes left, right and centre, 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, as things polarised every day, every week, then that sense of achievement may have been lost. So bringing back into well-being, it's not just for yourself, but also for an organisation. For me, a lot of these things in well-being come in what's happening in the organisational structure, what's on the agenda, and what's happening from a leadership point of view, as well as all the other nice stuff that we can do around well-being. These are a lot of the fundamentals that go through the core, don't they? Well, what about these for yourself? So as we head into that new year, we're looking to reset. What about these for yourself, all 5? Where would you say that they're at? And you might have already started to set plans for yourself, learning goals, financial goals, career goals. Have you set some goals around your own well-being? Maybe this model gives you something to explore. So where would you be? So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 it's perfect, where would you say you are? And I don't want you to put this in any chat or anything, this is for you privately. Just give yourself a score, but write it down. Just write it down, because a bit of commitment. And think about where you'd like to be. So if you were going to move that on now, say you're at 5, 6, I don't know where you are, but say it's 5, 6, you might even be a 7, 8. It might be great if you're at a 10. If you were to move that on 2 points on that scale, what would you be doing that would make it 2 points higher? What would change? What do you need to change? What do you need to shift? What do you need to add or take away? And write that down. And again, it might just be I need to think about that. And that's fine. But if you haven't, then maybe your well-being area is too narrow in focus. So what's your first step? What's your next step when you explore this well-being? Now, in a coaching arena, often what we're working with clients is to explore and make sure that there is balance, that there's action and ownership for somebody to make these changes in their life. So the coaching side with a client, I'll be working on those 4 areas. When it comes to the emotions, that tends to be the therapeutic side. And I'll come to why in a moment, because it's all about the brain stuff that's going on here. That we need to tackle what's going on in the mind. We're thinking about those goals now, that or intentions, probably a better word, around where you want your well-being to be at, where it fits in your other plans for 2022. Maybe you've already set your New Year's resolutions. Maybe setting New Year's resolutions fills you with dread. Let's just see if there's any emotions. Use the emoji buttons. Let's see what we've got around how we feel about New Year's resolutions. You see the emoji buttons if you like them. Let's give us some emojis. If you don't like them, see some more. What may you have that reflects on it? A New Year's resolution. They'll be sitting at the top of your screen if that's where your screen is. You've got your emojis. Can't see any at the moment. Oh, you've done.
I'm seeing some thumbs up there, Joe.
You like them. That's good. I like them.
A strong one from Charlene.
Very good. Oh, so all set and in place. Fabulous. So if they are set in place, have you got wellbeing on the agenda? Your wellbeing. If so, yeah, okay, it's like, oh. Now, yeah, if it is that horror thing face, I don't want you to worry. Yeah, in fact, I need you not to worry about I should have them in place, because there is that, isn't it? Oh, I should have them in place. I think New Year is one of the worst times that there is that kind of expectation. It's the new year, new you, and you hear it, it's in the papers and everything comes out, but actually don't feel the pressure. And I'm going to explain why in a moment. That you've still got time to be adding this to your plan or be doing something different. A few years ago, I was dealing, my annulus horribilis happened before COVID. It was the year before, actually, in 2019. End of a really long relationship, and I lost my mum that year. So it was pretty grim. And I went to ground really in the winter. I needed to heal. I needed to restore quite well, of course. And I used the winter to do that. And what I did was I did a lot of research. I looked at developed a number of spiritual practices, different type of yoga, a lot of solo stuff as well, and spiritual learning too. And I discovered the lovely Imbolc festival, which is a part of the pagan festivals and seasons, some nodding, which the calendar goes with natural flow of the seasons. And I thought it was great, because actually I got to February and I thought, fabulous. It also fits with the farming calendar. It's a time of renewal, warmth and growth. We're seeing new seeds come up, but also we get the longer days. Wasn't today absolutely gorgeous? Wasn't this morning beautiful? It certainly was in Shropshire, and it certainly was this evening as well, wasn't it? So we're already seeing those longer days. But New Year is like, oh, heavy, isn't it? And also we're probably like looking at the Christmas decorations and all of the dust and coming out the Christmas period. So no worry, if you haven't done those things, you still have time to research, read a book about well-being, add to your plans, because why not go with the energy of spring when you've got that light, you've got that intention, and you can go with that flow. It really is a kind of easier job when the around us, it feels good. I've got a few things in the chat there going on, so let me just have a chat. It was a stunning day, absolutely. Oh yeah, some emojis there around me. Yeah, it's absolutely stunning day. So yeah, go with the Imbolc festival. So as I said, I work very much with emotions and what I deal with in therapy. So what are some of the emotions? We've seen some of them, some of the things that have been a challenge to you. What are some of the emotions that you or others, you don't want to have it too personal, that you might have seen, experienced over the last sort of 20 months that have perhaps been quite challenging? Just again, pop in the chat. Some of the emotions that you may have experienced. overwhelm, exhaustion, lows, highs, frustration, yeah, exhaustion, fear, oh, lots of tears, yeah, tired, just overwhelming. Fear and survival came in a lot of those, yeah, grief, absolutely, yeah, losses in many ways, grateful too, yeah, good, yeah, and fear there a lot, worry, anxiety, absolutely. I hear a lot about anger, guilt, powerless, hopeless, frustration, because we're out of control. We haven't had control. We can feel quite powerless, quite hopeless. So what happens is when we're in these situations, our brain is responding all of the time, and you've got some really powerful words there, fears, you know, and that's what's happening here is your brain is being triggered. This is what we call the triune brain. Another one coming there, trying to deal with the kids, absolutely, anxiety. I felt very blessed that I didn't have to homeschool and just had to deal with a older teenager who just wants to live a life, different kind of stress, but certainly not that homeschooling. So yeah, the triune brain here, this is what goes on in the brain when we're experiencing various different emotions. I don't know if you've looked at it this way, but essentially the outer brain is the neocortex. It looks a bit like a walnut, but if you think of a walnut, it's got a shell, and it hard to shell. It's difficult to get in. It's the thinking, very complex brain, but in that is the if we look at the red brain first, the red part, that's the reptilian brain. It's the oldest part of the brain, the survival brain. Reptilian being very primal. It's where crisis happens, where all those emotions of, if you feel fearful, you're going to be fighting for your survival. So that's how Homo sapiens brain developed, and the line coming, that's your spinal cord coming down, which sends all the signals to your body. So when you feel fear, it sends all the messages to your body, and why you feel physically all of those emotions, and eventually you get to that point of tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, and you feel it in your body. Wrapped around that is the mammalian brain as Homo sapien developed. The limbic brain is where we house emotions, and it's the chemical brain. It's a huge part of the brain, but it's also your memory database. So things that have happened in the past code feelings. So events from the past, storing there as memories, the feelings around it, connects to the reptilian brain and sends all of those messages down your brain. I've got a little video that we hope to share tonight, but it wasn't sharing very well, but I will put it in your resources as well. It explains what happens when that's happening. So all of these things have been going on, and no wonder you've been feeling all of this. And quite often what we try and do is deal with it at the thinking brain side. Yeah, but the thinking brain is also the place where you get most resistance. It's the logical brain. Sometimes we have to, feelings will always override logic. If you're trying to fight through, you need to work with feelings. So in that core hindbrain, the red brain, sits our cerebellum, and this is the area that we've understood more about in the last 40 years through the development of neuroscience. You have 100 billion neurons firing like this all of the time, and when you learn something, good, bad and ugly, your mind, your neural pathways are connecting and causing a synapsis. So when you've learned and to be more fearful, more anxious, more overwhelmed, you're creating new neural pathways that then create layers and layers and layers and layers of neural networks that becomes a new way of learning and being. Just like this, your mind is doing this all of the time, good, bad, different. You might have learned a new recipe, or like Rose, learned to plaster. Not quite sure what that one was about, Rose. Or yes, her body has got used to cold water swimming. It's learned that. At some point it probably went, what are you doing to me, Rose? Yeah, but this is firing all of the time. No doubt over the last 20 months you've learned to work from home, you've learned new working practices, new policies, you've learned to homeschool. You possibly also learned to go to the fridge a little bit too often, perhaps maybe to drink a little bit too much. You've learned what overwhelm, worry, fear was that you didn't know was before. Then you've learned to love working from home. Then you've had to disconnect some neurons and learn to go back, maybe, yeah, which is what's been happening for people now. We're having to do it all again, haven't we? And go back into working from home. So all the time, your neurons are firing and rewiring, wiring, firing, rewiring, disconnecting all the time. And no more so than all this period of change. Change was in there as one of the bigger words. Has there ever been a time like it? Where fundamentally, we don't like change. Yeah, we don't like to perhaps be very boring and stay stuck in the rut. But the mind doesn't really like lots of too much change, because it creates a lot of uncertainty. So if it's trying to find that neural pathway and it isn't there, yeah, it's confused. It doesn't know what to do. So understanding this, hopefully you can see then that actually work with the mind effectively, you can overcome anxiety, fear, frustration, worry. You can recover. You can restore your well-being. You can do it in all of the ways of having good well-being practices and all of those other things that on the PERMA model, and what's important to you, like yoga, meditation, going for walks, being out in the country. But it's absolutely extremely feasible to reset your mind from a difficult event, situation, stuck feeling from a year ago, a week ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and even for some people that I work with 50 years ago. And those 50-year-olds, those 50 years ago, I'm working with people in the 60s, 70s who are still struggling with sort of childhood events. Quite a new trend actually I've seen over the last few years is more senior people come in to deal with lifelong limiting things, and they're wonderful to work with. But generally I work with those 30, 40, 50 and some teenagers too. But yes, you can fire and rewire. You have control over your neurons because you're doing it all the time. So we are probably going to run over a little bit, and if you hope to hang on, we're going to work the brain a little bit more. My work is not about working the walnut brain, the outer brain, it's working that inner brain. Yeah, that's where we get the change to happen more significantly. We can get it to happen quicker. It's not magic. Yeah, it's not about waving a wand. It still takes some work, but we can make rapid changes. So the first exercise I'm going to do is very much about rewiring those outdated thoughts. So keep in mind those neural firing, that image of the neural firing there. This is a modified version of the BWRT based because we're here online and in a group, so I can't check in with each of you. And then we're going to do a slightly more restorative thing as well. So here we're working with that hind primal brain too. So what I'd like you to do is to just think about a situation for you at the moment that's troublesome and it's difficult to move on. So it might have been something from the past and you're struggling to overcome, or you might be stuck in it at the moment. I'm not going to ask you to share. Might have to share some scores, would be good to sort of hear so we can see some movement. When we've done it, I won't ask you to, I won't talk about it because we've fired a new neural pathway and we want it to connect and embed. So I'll move on from it. But I want you to just think about a situation for yourself that you're finding troublesome to overcome. You might be writing it now, it's something from the past and you're still stuck in it. Perhaps choose something from that recent past around our topic tonight. And please don't choose anything too emotional or difficult for you. Like if it is a loss, I really can't help you with that in this short time. So please don't go that deep. These therapies can help, but of course I'd be working with you on a one-to-one and be supporting you. So get that troublesome situation in your mind, and then I want you to give it a score of how troublesome it is out of 10. 10 being it's bad. And if you feel comfortable just popping a score in the chat, that would be great. Nobody knows what it is, so what it means. If you feel comfortable, if you don't worry. We've got some going in. Oh, you're good sharers tonight. Yeah, so pretty high. Yeah, we've got some 8s. Yeah, 8s mean it's good to work with. Yeah. Oh, we've got some 9s. Now, if you've got some 6s and 7s, I want you to just think about what it felt like at the time. Does it say at a 6 and 7, or does it notch up a bit? perhaps notches up a little bit. Now what I'd like you to do is to think about the best thing that will be happening when this troublesome period is in the past. Now, if you want to close your eyes while you're doing this, it takes away, and I do encourage this in work with eyes closed with this therapy, because what we're wanting to do is tune into your senses, because it's the senses that are all in the compartments of the brain. We need to tune into the senses. If you feel uncomfortable closing your eyes, just take your gaze down to the floor. Feel quite grounded, maybe with your feet flat on the floor too. Good, well done. Focus on that. The best thing that will be happening after this troublesome period is in the past, and make that bigger and bolder. Now I want you to bring the bad memory, bad thing, back to your mind and get it back at that score that you had it before. So you're feeling that way, and I want you to focus on it now. We're going to do some work on that to freeze it. So I want you to really focus and zoom into it, zoom into what is the most troublesome part of that thing, zooming right into it, right into it. Now I want you to take a breath in, deep breath in, almost like that, and freeze that event, freeze it, see it stuck solid, there's no movement. Now breathe out and jump forward to that time in the future when everything is fine. And as you think about that time in the future, hundreds of thousands, those millions of neural pathways are joining that feeling to the moment of now, where you feel it right at this moment, right to the moment of now, imagining those small dots like we've just seen in that little video. Then into that frozen memory, and immediately shoot your mind forward to that time in the future when you discover how successful we've been, and then breathe in, breathe out. Now hundreds of thousands and millions of neural pathways are joining that feeling, that to the moment of now where you are right at this moment. And you can imagine those tiny pinpoints of light flashing as you go into that frozen memory. Immediately shoot forward, shoot your mind forward to that time in the future where you discover just how successful we've been, and then breathe in, breathe out. Now, hundreds of thousands and millions of neural pathways are joining that feeling right to the moment of now. Imagine all of those pathways bringing right to the moment of now, just how you want to feel, right to where you are. Now breathe in, breathe out. Hundreds of thousands of millions of neural pathways joining that feeling right to the moment of now, feeling and rushing along those pathways so that time in the future is filling your mind and filling your body from head to toe, fingertip to fingertip, and then into that frozen memory, and immediately shoot your mind forward to that time in the future when you discover just how successful you've been. Then breathe in, breathe out. Now hundreds of thousands and millions of neural pathways are joining that feeling right to the moment of now where you are right at this very moment, and you can imagine those tiny pinpoints of light flashing as you feel them rushing along those pathways, and all those preferred responses are filling your mind and filling your body right from head to toe, fingertip to fingertip, so you can feel every fibre and every cell getting stronger and stronger now. Every second that energy rushes along that neural pathway from back to front, side to side, filling your entire being as you go now back to that frozen memory, then immediately into shooting your mind forward now to that time in the future when you discover how successful you've been right in the moment. And now breathe in, breathe out. All those hundreds of thousands of neural pathways joining you right now, right at this very moment. And you can imagine those tiny pinpoints of light bringing all of that thought and feeling forward right to the moment of now. Now just resting there for a moment with that preferred feeling, that time in the future, just for a moment. And now I want you to think about what you're having for tea if you haven't had your tea, what you're going to be watching on telly, what you've got planned for the rest of the week, what you've got planned at the weekend, maybe what you're going to do for the kids. Maybe there's a nice walk you're going to do out there as the weather stays good. And then just thinking about that bad memory. We can't get rid of memories. We're dealing with the feeling. Just note now how uncomfortable that feeling is now. The feeling, not how vivid the memory is. And just drop that score down. Just see if you notice how it's moved. Should drop down. Some pop your scores in your chat. Oh, good. Good drop there. Jamie's, I think yours dropped a little, didn't it? Good. Got some good drops there coming down. Yay. We've got more 4s and 6s. Fabulous. So, oh yeah, another good 4. So what I'd normally do is we'd repeat that to be bringing it down. Well, what I want you to do for now, because we've got the time to keep repeating, is I want you to just keep pushing out your boundaries, that future feeling, the best thing Don't do anything else with it. It's the beauty about this sort of therapy. We're getting the mind to do the work, not consciously doing a lot of work. That's the big difference of what we've got going on here with the mind. And then a time in the future when something comes up, you'll notice that you respond differently. And this is a beautiful way that the mind works, by working with the neurons. You've now just fired a new neural pathway. Rose, what would you like us to do? Because we did want to just do a little bit more restorative work. People happy to continue as carry on? What do you want us to do? Or I can just move on to my last little bit and you finish off.
So I can see we've still got 30 people. I totally respect that people may need to go now. That's totally fine. As to mention that we are recording this, so we can share it with those that have to jump off. If you want to finish your section you're doing, and then we'll close off, and then we'll share all the slides afterwards.
Brilliant.
If that's okay.
Great, lovely, thank you. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment just so I can see a bit more of the screen. So I wanted to also just share with you something a little bit more restorative as well. When we see in some of those words that you're all describing, the pain, the exhaustion as well, and just do a very light visualization that equally can be quite restorative for you. And visualization, hypnosis in its very pure basic form, the beauty of it is restorative. It almost accelerates what you gain from sleep. Okay, so if you tune into that sort of thing, you've got a relaxation recording that you've got on the resources anyway. What I'd like you to do just for the moment is make sure that your feet are flat on the floor and your legs and arms are uncrossed, and just take your breathing to be fairly slow and steady. And again, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, or if not, just dropping your gaze perhaps a metre or so away from you, and allowing yourself to just drop that gaze. That's good. And now just allowing yourself to just let your breathing slow. Don't need to over accentuate it in any way. Just noticing your breathing is becoming slower and steadier. And as your breathing becomes slower and steadier, perhaps notice that your feet flat on the floor are becoming stronger into the ground, they're sinking into the ground. And as you just notice your arms resting in the lap, you can take yourself deeper into a nice relaxed state. And as you now just take yourself into a nice relaxed state now, just allowing my voice to wash over you and allowing your conscious mind, your thinking mind, to descend into your feet. It can take a nap for a moment while your unconscious hears every word. And I wonder if you can just now allow yourself to think of a place where you feel really safe and secure and peaceful, somewhere where you have a great sense of well-being, maybe a place you visit regularly, somewhere that was an outstanding place of beauty. It might be somewhere in your home. If many places come into your mind, simply choose one and notice how you feel in that place. Notice what you see, the colours. Notice the sounds and any scents. And notice how you feel. And noticing how your breathing becomes in this place. So slow and steady. So slow and steady, you almost wouldn't disturb a feather placed right in front of you. Now just feeling that wonderful, relaxed feeling coming all over you. That feeling that you get in that place. Allow that to relax the top of your head, your scalp, your neck. Allow that same feeling to melt down your shoulders and down your arms. It melts down your entire spine. It melts down into your chest and into your tummy, around your pelvis and down your left leg and down your right leg. Now, feeling so relaxed, I wonder if you can find, and I know you can find, a place deep within that feels a wonderful centre of peace. I know you can find this place. And as you find that place deep inside your centre of peace, I want you to just give it a word that means something to you. And also a colour, or think of a colour that this feeling gives you. It can be anything. Now, as you say this word now, I want you to say this word to yourself softly 3 times and allow the colour to expand through your whole body. As you say that word softly to yourself 3 times. Perfect. Good. Now, this time I want you to say this word again softly to yourself 3 times. Let the colour expand even more. As you squeeze the thumb and finger together on which hand, whichever hand, squeezing your thumb and finger together. And locking in, anchoring in that feeling that this place provides, your word, your feeling. Perfect. And then releasing the thumb and finger. Now you can trigger that feeling anytime you choose. Now I want you to just see yourself in a situation in the near future, maybe a day, week, a month. Seeing yourself in an ordinary situation where you want to have that feeling. Notice how you look, how you move, how you feel. Allow yourself to feel that way in that situation. Notice how you respond, how others respond. So you can be exactly as you want to be. The best version of you, just feeling so relaxed, so peaceful, so nourished, so restored. Now, you can allow that feeling to continue. And you can trigger it anytime you choose, just by taking a few deep breaths, perhaps closing your eyes and taking yourself into your wonderful, safe, peaceful place. Or you can just trigger it really easy, just with the squeeze of your thumb and finger. But for now, coming back into awareness as I count from 1 up to 5, and at 5, feeling energized, feeling ready for the evening, bringing back with you this wonderful feeling of calm and peace, feeling safe, feeling a little lighter, perhaps restored at 1 and 2, feeling calmer with more energy at 3 and 4, and at 5, opening your eyes. Brilliant. And just as you come to, for those that are still with us, still quite a few on, so I hopefully enjoyed that. It'd be lovely to hear see some words in the chat of what you feel from that. Just that short amount of time in just spending some time allowing the mind to calm and taking it into the body. Yeah, good. Calm and relaxed. Felt shoulders, yeah. Bring it on, actually. Yeah. Good. Relaxed and sleepy. Yeah, it can take you there very, very quickly, can't it? And that's the beauty of it. Excellent. Where's my little button gone? Okay. That one. So just finishing off my slides, just to say that I'm very passionate about this. Well-being is really important. Good practice is really important. But if you've not dealt with some of the meatier stuff, you've got to pull out that stuff at the roots, create a good garden, and then all the well-being stuff that you do, the day-to-day practices, will work far more effectively for you. Otherwise, it's like battling, isn't it, on dodgy ground? The weeds are going to keep coming through. So please, if there's things that keep troubling you, then you've got to find some way of pulling out those roots. And remembering, though it's been a difficult time, that resilience is not about enduring, it's about restoring, it's about finding those times. And even just in that 5 minutes, it wasn't even 5 minutes that we spent there, and a very other quick intervention about shifting your thoughts and feelings forward. So thank you for listening and participating. Thank you for calm voice. Yeah, I try, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, and it's a great way of relaxing. Good. So thank you, and thank you to the committee for letting me share some of my stuff tonight. I hope you found it insightful. Look back at those intentions and enjoy the in bulk. It's a good dance as well you can have with the in bulk that you can do. Check it out. And I'll hand back to Rose.
Oh, brilliant, Jo. I think it was worth staying on, wasn't it, for that, because it's really lovely closes our session. So we're going to be sending out to you all the slides tonight, and there's 2 slides which I'm not going to share now because I don't want to activate anybody's minds with 2 more slides. So please have a look at the last 2 slides because they tell you about our upcoming sessions and also a useful resource pack that's coming up as well. So thank you so much for everybody joining us. I feel really refreshed and really charged. We'd love to hear from you about how you found tonight's session. So look out for that monkey survey, one of those. Anyway, you'll come your way, and we really appreciate your feedback on it as well. And we hope to connect with you all again soon. So good evening, good night, and speak to you all soon. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. Feel nice and calm and relaxed and enjoy.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks both. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Still in space. You
are. It suits you there, I think. Got used to being there, Rose, in space. That comes to be